back. This is my second part in my little What the Heck is Happening in Ukraine series, and this time we're going to focus on the two leaders of these countries, Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Vladimir Putin. So let's start with a little shirtless on a horse Putin. If you've ever been like, no, that was Photoshopped. No, it was definitely not Photoshopped. It actually happened. He rode a horse shirtless in Siberia, which is such a choice. Anyway, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born in 1952. As an aside, do you think anybody calls him Vlad? Probably not, but I had to ask. Anyway, so he was born in 1952 in Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg. He went to law school, then he worked in the KGB as a foreign intelligence officer for 16 years, and then he was like, nah, I want to do the politics. So he resigned and began his political career. Then he moved up to Moscow and joined the presidential administration of Boris Yeltsin, kind of bounced around a few jobs under Yeltsin, who was a very corrupt and kind of complicated guy, and ended up being appointed Prime Minister of Russia, which is the second most powerful position after president, and is head of the Russian government. Then Yeltsin resigned in 1999, which made Putin the acting president, and less than 4 months later, he was elected outright to his first term as president, which went really well. He grew the economy, had good policies for the Russian people, did lots of reforms, had high approval ratings, the people were into him. Then in 2004, he was re-elected, the good times kept rolling, but by the Russian constitution, he was limited to 2 consecutive terms. So then from 2008 to 2012, he served as prime minister, and then returned to the presidency in 2012, and was re-elected again in 2018. His second go as being president has been objectively messier. There were mass protests and election fraud in 2011. Once he took office, Putin severely limited the rights of LGBTQ Russians, took over Crimea, the GDP shrank as a result of sanctions in 2014, obviously he's invaded Ukraine, and now there's a financial crisis in Russia. Honestly, this is the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more here, but it's not going good. Also in 2021, he was like, that prime minister part was dumb, and signed into law a constitutional amendment allowing him to run for re-election twice more, so he could potentially be president until 2036 when he is 84. So he is really planning ahead, and just stomping all over democracy. Also, he signed another bill giving lifetime prosecutorial immunity to Russian ex-presidents, which seems very convenient. Anyway, Russia is technically still a democracy, though experts now qualify it much more so as authoritarian, specifically because of the jailing and repression of political opponents, intimidation and suppression of the free press, and lack of free and fair elections. In his personal life, Putin is divorced and definitely has 2 daughters. Wikipedia literally says at least 2, because there's speculation that he has more children with Alina Kabaeva, a former Russian Olympian, but they're sort of unconfirmed. He's Russian Orthodox, and according to a broadcast run by the Russian government, he likes to eat steak in the morning. So there's that. Now let's talk about Zelenskyy. He was born here in a city called Kryvyi Rih in central Ukraine in a working-class Jewish family, which is really important because a lot of Putin's propaganda around the invasion of Ukraine involves the denazification of Ukraine, which is a particularly insane thing to claim because not only is all of Zelenskyy's family Jewish, Zelenskyy's grandfather served in World War II, and his father and 3 brothers were all murdered in the Holocaust, along with millions of other Ukrainians. So I don't want to make light of this. It's a really, really big deal that Putin is using the language of Nazi Germany to attack and invade Ukraine. But back to Zelenskyy, he grew up speaking Russian, Ukrainian, and English. He went to law school at Kryvyi Rih National University, and then joined a comedy team. It's a left turn, but we're with you. He went on to create a production company called Kvartal 95, and in 2008 he started starring in movies, mostly romantic comedies, and was the voice of Ukrainian Paddington Bear. Yes, Paddington. The bear with a little coat and hat, President Zelenskyy, in his t-shirt refusing to leave Kiev. Paddington Bear? Same guy. Incredible. Anyway, then in 2015, Zelenskyy became the star of TV series Servant of the People, where he played a high school history teacher who ranted against the government. A student put it on YouTube, and then he was elected president of Ukraine. In case that got lost, that was in the show where Zelenskyy played president. This all is a little bit inception-y. So in 2018, his production company started a political party under the same name as the show, Servant of the People, and Zelenskyy launched his presidential campaign to unseat Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. Zelenskyy said he went into politics to restore trust in politicians, then he wanted to bring professional, decent people to power. Among his campaign promises were that he would only serve 1 term in office, he would end the war in Donbass, and put a stop to corruption. He won with like 73% of the vote compared to incumbent Poroshenko's 25%. So he became president in 2019, and it's honestly been a little bit of a rocky road. President Trump withheld military aid, which he was trying to use as leverage to get dirt on Hunter Biden, which led to Trump's first impeachment. Then there was COVID and a struggle to secure COVID vaccines in Ukraine, as well as failed peace talks with Putin, all of which sort of tanked Zelensky's approval rating to as low as 20% by the end of 2020 in some surveys. Then the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where we've seen kind of a new version of Zelenskyy, definitely not the comedy star, but a really tough dude facing down like all of Russia's military and holding his ground in Kiev. He's been praised pretty universally for his bravery and leadership and compared to George Washington and Winston Churchill. Before the war even started, he oversaw name changes of Soviet-era monuments and street names to honor Ukrainian heroes, and as many probably saw, when offered evacuation from Ukraine by the US, Zelenskyy said, "The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride." Badass. On a personal note, he's married with 2 kids, and also in the Ukrainian version of Dancing with the Stars. And real quick before we go, I would be oversimplifying things if I said this whole war boils down to these 2 guys. There's a lot of geopolitics and history and other leaders and other factors, but we're seeing a lot of these too, and while Putin increasingly seems to be sort of working at odds with what his country actually wants or knows about, Zelenskyy is becoming an international symbol for heroism and resistance to dictatorship, which is kind of amazing to watch in real time. If you liked this, check out my history and context breakdown of the invasion. Let me know what I should sum up next.